So I have my primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and I have my black and white, and I'm going to show you how to mix those so they don't turn brown. I have water in a nasty old jar, but you can have yours in whatever you want. I have a small round brush, a medium flat brush, and a large flat brush. Your brushes look different than mine, and your canvas is a different size, but I need big ones so that you can see it. But as long as you have a variety of brushes, that'll work, okay? All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to cover our canvas with water. And the reason we do that in Denver is it's very dry here, especially with the heat on. That makes it super dry. So we wanna make sure that our water, that our canvas is hydrated so our paints don't dry out. So I'm going to cover my whole canvas with just plain old water. This painting is about loving everyone, loving your family, loving your spouse, loving your whoever you're with, loving your friends, and loving yourself. That's important too. All right. I also have some napkins. Okay. And I have my beverage. I'm going to be starting with water. I might switch to wine. And you can obviously drink whatever you want. It's your house, where you are, your home. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find where in my painting I have yellow. I'm going to pick up my biggest fan brush, flat brush, biggest flat brush. Looks like that. And then when you turn it, it looks skinny like that. When you turn the other side, it's flat like that. So I'm going to pick up some yellow paint on both sides of that flat brush. And then I see it up here in the corner. So I'm going to put some yellow there. And I see some on the side here. So I'm going to put some yellow there. Okay. And I see a whole bunch of it down in here. So I'm going to put some down there. And I think behind this red, there's a little bit up here. Oh, and I see some on the top, more in the middle too. Now here's the great thing. If you paint on the sides of your painting, when you get close to the sides, go ahead and paint the sides, okay? Because if you paint the tops and the sides and the bottom as you go, that's going to give you a finished painting on the edges. And when you have a finished painting on the edges, that's called a gallery wrap. And that means you can hang it in your house without a frame. And you'll save money because you won't need a frame. I see some yellow down here too. So I'm going to put some yellow down here. Usually when we have kids in the studio for kids camp in the summer, the first thing they'll do is they'll mix all their colors together and they'll have brown. So that's okay if that's what you want, but I just want to make sure you know what you're going to get if you do. I'm not going to do that. All right, so I have yellow all over. Go ahead and put yellow in the spots where you think there should be yellow. And I was looking at this one to see about where I wanted to put mine. Try to make them about the same. So abstract paintings like this one, they don't look exactly like anything you've seen before. What abstract paintings do is they express emotion. So when you have all these bright colors together and they're all kind of dancing and playing together, that's a happy feeling, right? Especially with the heart. And the general idea of this one is loving someone or being in love or feeling love. It's a happy painting. If we painted it just browns and blacks and grays, maybe it wouldn't be so happy. I don't know. There's a couple of different ways to make orange. One is to mix two colors together on your plate, the yellow and the red, and make a pile of it on your plate. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to paint over the yellow when it's still wet. So I'm going to try that. I'm not even going to clean my brush because I want orange. So yellow plus red makes orange. I'm going to pick up some red on my brush and I'm going to paint right over wet yellow paint. Paint right over it. And I'm still using my big brush, but you can use any size brush that you want. So where I have wet yellow, it mixed and made orange. Can you see the orange? And then if I put some up here, it's going to make some orange too. I'm kind of sort of trying to put it in the same spots, but mine will look different than this one and yours will look different than mine. And that's good because we want to see your personality in it. I've got a little more orange here, so I'm going to put it on while my yellow's still wet. But I'm not using a lot of red because I want it to mix with the yellow. I'm trying to let it mix so I get orange. That's my idea. And up here in the corner a little bit. I put a little yellow on top of it, and that'll definitely be orange. This is a great painting for families to do together because kids can learn about color mixing. And adults too. If at any time you have questions and you want to ask me questions, just go ahead and unmute, okay? Don't forget to paint your sides and your top and your bottom. I'm going to clean my brush really well because if I remember when two colors are together, like orange, like red and yellow, that makes a nice date, nice Valentine's date. But three together, not so much. So I'm going to just clean my brush so that next time I pick up this brush, it's going to be fresh and clean for the next color. Again, so I don't get brown. There's nothing wrong with brown paintings. We have some beautiful brown paintings, but this one we want to keep bright. It's a bright, happy painting. When you're ready, we're going to make pink. And the way you make pink is just mix a little white and a little red. Make sure your brush is clean, okay? So a little white and a little red together will make pink, like a candy heart or cotton candy or Pepto-Bismol. If you eat too much cotton candy, you need Pepto-Bismol, right? Tummy medicine. All right, so pink. And I'm going to look on my painting for where is the pink. All right, I see pink right here. Do you guys see that pink? See some pink up there. So let's somewhere around there. See some here. See some here, right there. I definitely see a bunch in the middle. And it's okay if it wasn't mixed well and I get red or white streaks in it. That's okay. That just makes it even more interesting. Oh, and I see a whole bunch over here. And look up here. Do you see all that? Like I said, if you don't want to paint it exactly the way I am, paint it the way you want. But just try really hard not to mix all your colors together if you want bright, okay? All right, so I have pink here. That's this one. I've got pink here. That's, oops, I've got some in the middle and then I've got some there. I'll just put some green to break it up. And I've got some down here. And I've got a bunch over here. This one was a little bit whiter. That's okay. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. No worries. And then there's these shapes here. So that starts to make the heart shape. So I'm going to pick up a little more right here. And I'm already going to just make one swoop. One swoop. That's a technical art term, right? Swoop. One swoop. Almost a half of a heart. Not entirely a half, but something like that. All right, now I'm looking at the painting here and I can see that this red for the heart is on top of all the other colors. So I'm not going to do red yet. I'm just not going to. I'm going to clean my brush really well. After you're done with some pink, clean your brush really well. And when I clean my brush, I really swish the dickens out of it. Because if I do that, then I don't have to use a lot of napkins. And I save a forest maybe. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up some blue on my brush. After I clean my brush, I'm going to pick up some blue, okay? And then I'm going to find areas where there's blue. And you know what, since that blue is lighter than what I have, I'm going to put a little bit of white on the other side. So I've got some white and I've got some blue. All right. So I see some blue here. Somewhere around in here. And I see some here. Whoops. It's okay if it's different than the other, right? All right. And then I see a swoop of it inside. Kind of mixes with the pink a bit. Definitely see some down here. See this right here. And I see some here that mixed with green. I'm gonna have to, let's see, I'll put a little there. Maybe pick up a little more white on one side so I get a pale green, a pale bluish in there. I'd be careful. I'm going to try carefully not to put blue on top of orange. And the reason I'm going to be careful not to put blue on top of orange is that the two together make brown. So some of the colors play really nice together in the sandbox, and some of them are kind of ornery and they don't. So the ornery ones are blue and orange. They just don't play nice. And the other ones that don't play nice are red and green. They look great by themselves at Christmas time, but when they mix, not so much. Not good friends. Well, unless you want brown, and that's fine too. That works. But we're going to try to avoid that. All right. There's a color there. I'm not quite sure it is. I'll just put that in a little blue with the skinny side of my brush. And dark up there, the top. It's going to be kind of the top of the heart area. I see some blue right there. Right there. And so I put orange down here, but now I'm seeing it's red. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little blue down there right on top, and then I'll come back and put red on top of that later. That blue is so powerful, it didn't let the orange turn it brown. And let's see. All right, so I'm going to clean my brush. Clean it a lot. And then I'm going to show you how to make green, okay? When you're caught up, I'll show you how to make green. Yeah. So I like to wait a few minutes in between colors, and we've already put on a lot. So let's do this, okay? Let's take a 5-minute break and let these colors dry so that when we put on the green and the red and then the black and a little white, that all of it won't blend into each other and become brown. So let's step back and see our paintings from about 5 feet away, okay? So I'm going to get up, I'm going to walk 5 feet away, and I'm going to look at my painting. And the reason we're going to do that is because if you've ever seen a Monet or a Van Gogh painting up close, what you'll notice is that they look pretty terrible from up close. But if you look at them from the proper viewing distance of 5 to 10 feet away, they look amazing. And so we want to give our own artwork the same respect that we would give to the masters of the painting world. Okay, so let's get up and let's walk 5 or 10 feet away, however far we can get in the same room, and look at our paintings. Okay. Okay, so if you look at this painting, the dry one, you'll see that it's not shiny in any parts. That's called matte. So I can move it around in the light and I don't see any shininess at all. because it's 100% dry. But on this painting, if I move it around in the light, it is very shiny. You see all that shininess? That tells me it's still wet. So I've got to wait a few more minutes. Another way to know is if you feel the back of your painting, if it feels cooler to the touch than the air around you or other things around you, that's another way to know it's still wet. There's another way, but I don't recommend it. If you pick it up and wipe it on the person next to you and they scream a lot, that means it was wet. So don't do that, okay? It's reliable, but I don't recommend it. So we're going to wait a few minutes until our paintings are a little bit more dry before we go on. And there's some things you could do. You could take another paper plate and you could fan it like that. Or you could pick up your painting, just pick it right up off your easel and move it around like that. Just fan it. And that also dries your painting. I've got this one kind of hooked in there, so just to show you, just move it around. Or you can put a blow dryer on it or a fan. And this cold, I don't know if I'd want to use a fan, a house fan, but a blow dryer would be warm. But whatever you do to get some more air on it, that will help it dry a little more quickly. When it dries, it's just the colors won't mix quite so much together. We're just trying to keep them bright. So I've just got an old pretzel lid that I'm using as a fan.
Or since we're from home, we'll just bring out the old hair dryer.
There you go. That works great. That works terrific.
Of course, I don't have one.
Yeah, in Denver, you don't really need them. Things dry so fast here, usually. So I'll tell you, while we're waiting for that to dry, I'll tell you a little bit about acrylic paints. There's different kinds of paints, right? The kind that they use in school, the kids use, that's tempera, and that's made basically of chalk and water, basically. And that's like, it's powdered pigment and water, and that cleans really easily. It cleans with soap and water. Acrylic paint has that powdered pigment in it. But it has water, but it also has a binder that's like glue. So it does make it permanent. If you get it on your clothes, it's not going to come out probably. So if you do get it on your clothes, let me tell you what to do, okay? To increase your chances of getting it out. If you do get any on your clothes, you take a clean napkin and you put it on the spot and you pull the paint out, just like you pull out chewing gum. Don't smear it in, okay? And then you, after you've pulled off as much as you can, then you, with clean fingers, rub in concentrated dish soap, and then you wash those clothes as soon as you can, like tonight, in the washing machine. And the warmer the water, the more it comes out. If you get any on your computer and washing it with soap and water on a paper towel doesn't work, you could also try a little rubbing alcohol, but be careful, it could take paint off sometimes. Same thing with your carpet. And if you get it on your dog or your kitty cat, you're going to have to give them a little bath. It will scrub out of your hands with just soap and water. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make the color green. So I always like to get my brush wet first. So since I'm going to be putting it in smaller spaces, I'm going to switch to a little smaller brush. I was using a really big brush before, so I'm going to go down a notch to a slightly smaller one. And green is just basically yellow and blue mixed together. That's all it is. And you'll probably need more yellow than blue because this blue is a pretty powerful blue. I like to make just small batches at a time because I can always come back and mix more. But if I don't use too much, then I'll have paint to use for something else. So I'm just making a little green, putting it on my medium brush, and then I'm going to look for spots on my painting that have green. I definitely see some up in here. Now my green is a little darker than the green in the painting. So if I want to make it a little lighter, I could with a little more yellow. Or you could add a little white. Your call. You decide. Both work. If it's too bright. Okay. I'll leave that there for now. And I have some green down here. Actually, I have a big swoop of it between the blue and the pink. Big swoop of green. Then I have a scribble of it down here. Maybe I'll even a little higher. A little brighter yellow. I have a gap here, so in the gaps, put in whatever you want. And then with this lighter green, I'll just kind of scribble it in up there. There's some next to the pink. And there's some very yellowy green up in here. Then I even mixed a little white with some yellowy green because up here, you see how that's kind of a lemony green? It's like a yellow mixed with white kind of green. Lighten up that one a little too much, a little too also. Any place that you see green on the original painting, go ahead and put it in your painting. I see a little here. See a little bit here. A little bit there. Again, if you don't want them in these spots, put them in your own spots. Important thing is you're happy. That's all that matters. I still have a little canvas over here that I haven't decided what color. So I'm just going to, since I have space, I'm just gonna put in a little more yellowy green because why not? Don't forget to paint the sides as you go, okay? Yellow and blue play nice together. They make a nice green, but you can always pick up a little more yellow on your brush and it just makes it a lighter shade of green. And you can use that in spots that don't already have a color yet. We haven't put on our red yet, our straight on red. So save that. We're gonna let this dry a minute before we put on our red, okay? Because the red will really define it. But you can use either green or yellow or any other color you've used before to fill in any white spots that are left that you don't want to keep white. I'm looking at my painting from with the camera, it looks farther away, so I don't have to get up every time. And I'm noticing that mine looks really dark on this side. Darker than this before the black. So I can always take a little more of that light pink and I can just kind of come around and lighten it up. Any place that you see a color you want to lighten up, you can go ahead and do that. If you mix the color with a little bit of white. But just remember, we don't want to add too many layers of color. We want to let each one dry a bit. Again, so they don't mix together and make brown. So go easy. Give it time to dry in between, okay? So if you didn't step back, I really do recommend that you do that because when I was able to step back away from my painting, it looks totally different than it does up close. It doesn't even look like the same painting up close. So if you haven't gotten up yet and moved away, please do. And look at your painting from a little farther away so you can really see what you've got because you'll be surprised how different it looks from far away. And always be sure to clean your brushes in between so you're not using the last color that you used when you don't intend to. Make sure you clean your brushes really well, okay? Because we're gonna go to red and I wanna make sure that I don't pull any other colors from a dirty brush in with my red, okay? So my painting is 100%, is not 100% dry. If I look at it, I still have some shiny spots. But it's a lot more dry than it was a few minutes ago. And some of the colors are dry. That is good. So if yours is like that and you think it's, let's say overall, it's more dry than it is wet, then we could probably put on our red. But if you're not sure, let's wait a few minutes. So let's just wait a couple more minutes. This would be a good time if you need another glass of wine or you have to let the dog out, or you have to go to the bathroom, let's give it 2 more minutes, okay? All right, so I made some little tiny fine tunings, but I didn't make my whole painting wet enough that I'm gonna worry about it. I just have a little wet there. I'm gonna ignore that part. I'm gonna not put red over that green. But I have, it's enough dry that I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put red paint on both sides of a very clean brush. Make sure your brush is clean. And then I'm going to look for red on my painting. And remember down here, this was orange, but it's really more red. So I'm going to put some red over it. Want it to match the other one a little bit more. And I'm seeing a big blob of red right there over that yellow. I don't want it to cover all the yellow because I want it to show a little red, show a little yellow, just like the original. I see a little more red on this side here. It's a little messier than I just did, but that's okay. It's kind of a bunch of colors. Now here's where it starts to look like a heart. I'm gonna make this side, but here's the thing. Don't make it straight and don't make it a perfect curve. It's messy. So we're gonna have to think about where this would be. Okay, it's messy. So I'm gonna go up in a straight line or kind of straight. Then I'm gonna make another straight line. I'm deliberately not making a nice curve, which is hard. If you like nice, straight, orderly things like I do. A lot of moms are like that. A lot of finance and engineering people are like that too, and accountants. And then this, there's a big line of it right next to that blue. And that gives it its distinct heart shape. But notice I'm not going to go smooth that out. We don't want it smooth. We want it choppy, choppy, choppy. Choppy and messy, that's its name. Seemed like there was a little more orange up here. If I barely touch it, 2 hairs and some air over the yellow, I can get a little bit more orange there. And then you can also pick up your painting and carefully look on all the sides and the top and the bottom and see any other place that doesn't have paint and just kind of stick some more. You can stick the red up there, any color you want. Just make sure your edges are finished off around your painting. Doesn't really matter what color you put there, just so long as it's wrapped around. I'm just tweaking and playing right now, and I probably should be careful. I'm noticing that there's a lot of different colors of streaks here, so I'm trying to chop up my blue and my red so they don't look too perfect. Perfection is really kind of the enemy of this painting. It's just, there's a lot of imperfection. That's tricky. Tricky. If it's too perfect, it won't be as good as if it's imperfect. So if yours isn't perfect, you're ahead of the game. Now we should definitely have a heart shape on there. That's the whole idea. If there are any parts of your painting that you want to have white, you can pick up a smaller brush, like a medium to a small brush, and you can pick up some white and you can put in white. But keep in mind that it's mostly a bright painting, and if you put in a lot of white, it just won't look quite as bright and bold. It's a very rainbowy kind of painting. So I'm going to go easy. If I want white, it's just going to be in a few little places, just to add some texture or some visual interest, like just to break up anything that looks too solid. White's good for that. But I'm putting it on like a dry brush, and what that means is just a tiny bit of paint on my brush and mostly dry. And then I just scratch it on, and that just adds a little texture or a little shine without making any white bands or streaks or hard parts. It's almost like you're just kind of adding a glow. So it's dry brushing means a tiny bit of paint on your brush, tiny bit, almost dry, and just scratch where you want some glow. Look at how little paint that is. It's almost completely dry. But that's all I need to just add on a little shine and sparkle. And then I barely touch the canvas. No pressure, no pressure. Like Bob Ross used to say, 2 hairs and some air. Like I'm tickling it. Just tickling the canvas with that tiny bit of white. Just to add a little sparkle. And it's deliberately leaving brush marks. We're not trying to get rid of these little faint, tiny white brush marks. We're putting them in on purpose. Just to add a little sparkle. And then we're going to have a talk about black paint and make some decisions. If your red didn't show up well, you can just go over your red with a second coat after it's mostly dry. And that will make your red stand out a little bit more if you wanted to. But again, don't make the heart too smooth. Keep it choppy, imperfect. All right, so now we're going to do the black. So make sure your brush is clean. Your medium flat brush is clean. And then I'm going to show you where to put the black so that we don't overdo it. So we can keep it abstract, okay? So I'm going to put black on both sides of my medium brush, just on the bristles. I'm not going to scoop it like paint, so not a big scoop of paint, just on the bristles, but thoroughly loaded on the bristles by tapping into it quite a few times. Let's start up here and just make a tiny little line across there. And then we're going to have to touch down and then flick up. Touch down, flick up. Maybe a little longer. It's like a deliberate splatter up there. I'll put a little more black on my brush. And here, I'm going to make a hockey stick, kind of like that. So. And then I make a couple more lines right here, these, okay? So scribbly, quick, almost random lines. And it's just adding to the shape without being too perfect. Not perfect at all. Like I said, it's hard for us people who like things to be orderly. This is hard, but we're gonna do it. Here, we're gonna make a loop around, but we're gonna do it in two parts. We're gonna start in the middle of this red, we're gonna loop up to the top and stop. And then we'll overlap it and we'll loop down to halfway down this side of the heart. Okay, so I'm going to start down here and I'm going to loop up to the top of the heart and let go. If it's not solid, you can do it again. That's fine. Oh man, mine went right off the page. That's okay. They're all going to look different. And then I'm going to overlap at the top here and I'm going to bring it halfway down. That adds definition to the left side of my heart for sure. And then there's another line that starts on the side of the painting right here and goes up there. So I'm going to pull it up and then flick it off to the side. And then I'm going to put my medium brush in the water and clean it because I'm not going to use that anymore. Then I'm going to switch to my small brush. Now these choppy, messy lines, they're real hard for people who like order. So I feel ya. If you're having trouble with it, I feel ya. I get it. That's what we do, but it's okay. All right. Then I'm going to switch to my small brush. So this one, picking up my small brush, putting it in black, and this one is going to, I'm not going to do it yet. I'll just show you the motion. I'm going to see it here. I'm going to pull it up and hook it around. So right in the middle of the heart here, I'm going to pull it up, hook it around, let it go. And then I'm going to reload my brush and I'm going to, near the end of the hook, I'm going to bring that down a little bit more. Why? I don't know. It's just there. And then we're gonna have to make a decision. But before we make a decision, we're gonna put on some random dots, okay? So I'm gonna take the stick part of my brush, see that? I'm gonna pop it in black paint, and then I'm gonna make random dots. Now, when we paint this painting here in the summer, the reason we have dots is we put it out on the lawn and we flick paint on it. But since we're all painting at home and we don't want our family members to kill us on Valentine's Day, we're going to use our brush and try to put on as many of these little specks or dots without flicking, okay? We're going to see if we can approximate the look without flicking. But then I'm going to tell you some other things you could do, okay? So far with all those dots on it, you could probably tell someone you flicked it and they might believe you. You just flicked them on there outside. Put them in little clusters, different parts. Notice that what I did is I took my small brush and I just put it in white paint, and I'm just putting my initials in the bottom. And if you put your initials down there, then when I see yours in the Denver Modern Art Museum, I'll know exactly who you are. But the very last, so that's usually the last step, but I just want to tell you, if you really like this flicked look, this is up to you and your household. You guys have to make an executive decision about your home. How much do you love your home? Now, what I would do is, if you want to flick it, you can add some water to your black. And if you do this real close to your painting, you'll get some flicks. But if you're painting on your carpet and there's no towel underneath, then this probably isn't a good idea, right? So let me see if I can show you that a little closer, okay? Another way to do it that I would do if I were home, I would put my painting in the bathtub, because you can always clean the bathtub, right? So add a little water, so my paint's very thin. Watch how I flick it. See what happens when I flick it? But if you do this in the bathtub, then you can just right away clean it. Or in the kitchen sink, maybe, depending on your kitchen sink and your household. And I don't want anyone to send me their laundry bill. So that's where you have to make a family decision or a personal decision. If it were me, I would just put it right in a wash tub or a bathtub, and I would go ahead and flick it like this, and then I would just clean it. But no, when you tap it like that, some of it will flick back in your hair. A little bit. Only do it with a tiny brush or you'll have a big mess. Anyway, that's the end of my painting. That is it.